Joel Osteen built the biggest church in America on a simple message of hope. For 25 years, he smiled through every storm, every scandal, every accusation thrown his way. But something has finally caught up with him. After the shooting inside Lakewood, the missing $600,000 found in a bathroom wall, the PPP money, the hurricane backlash, and the questions that never went away, the walls are closing in. People who once defended him are going quiet. Critics who waited for years are speaking louder than ever. And what's coming next for Joel Osteen is something nobody saw coming. This time the smile won't save him. Joel Scott Osteen was born on March 5, 1963 in Houston, Texas. He was the fourth of 5 children born to John Hillary Osteen and Dolores Dodie Pilgrim Osteen. Long before Joel ever stood in front of a crowd, the story of his life was already being shaped by the force of his father's world. Because John Osteen was not an ordinary man with an ordinary path. John was born on August 21, 1921 in Paris, Texas, and he became a Southern Baptist minister before he had even turned 18. He studied seriously and built strong credentials, earning a bachelor's degree from John Brown University, a master's degree from Northern Baptist Seminary, and later a Doctor of Divinity from Oral Roberts University. His personal life, though, had already seen upheaval. He married his first wife, Emma Jean Schaefer, and later divorced her while serving as pastor of Central Baptist Church in Baytown, Texas. Together, they had a son, Justin Osteen, who would later do missionary work out of New York. Then John married Dodie on September 17, 1954. And from there, the family that would one day become widely known started to take shape. But the turning point came in 1958 when their newborn daughter Lisa was born with a condition that resembled cerebral palsy. That crisis shook everything. It did not just affect the family emotionally. It changed John's theology, his ministry, and the direction of his entire life. He later described that season as a time when he experienced the baptism of the Holy Ghost. From that moment on, he embraced charismatic Christianity and chose to leave the Southern Baptist Convention. That change soon led to something even bigger. On Mother's Day, May 10, 1959, John Osteen founded Lakewood Church, which was first called Lakewood Baptist Church. It began in a converted, dusty, abandoned feed store on the outskirts of Northeast Houston. Around 90 people attended that first service. It was small, rough, and far from impressive, but that did not last for long. Before long, the church dropped the word Baptist from its name and became non-denominational. Over the years, it kept growing, and by 1979, attendance had passed 5,000. Then in February 1987, the church broke ground on a new 8,000-seat sanctuary which was completed in April 1988. Joel grew up in the middle of all this expansion, but his family was not built around him alone. Each of his siblings moved into very different lives. Paul Kent Osteen, born November 16, 1955, graduated in the first medical school class at Oral Roberts University in 1982 and became a general and vascular surgeon in Little Rock, Arkansas. Lisa Osteen, born around 1958, survived a pipe bomb in 1990 after opening a package addressed to her father. She was injured but not killed, and she later became an associate pastor at Lakewood. Tamara Osteen Graff, born around 1961, married Pastor Jim Graff. April Austin Simons, the youngest, became a motivational speaker and author. Joel, though, did not seem like the child most likely to become his father's successor. He graduated from Humble High School in 1981 and enrolled at Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he studied radio and television communications. But that chapter ended almost as quickly as it began. After just one semester, he dropped out and returned to Houston in 1982 to help his father build Lakewood's television ministry. Even then, he had no desire to preach. He stayed away from the spotlight and worked behind the scenes. Lakewood itself later described those years by saying that Joel's first experiences were in media and business, where he served faithfully as a television producer. That detail matters because it explains the core of who he was at the start. He was not the son eager to take the pulpit. He was the son who wanted to stay away from it. For the next 17 years, from 1982 to 1999, Joel Osteen lived mostly in the background. He built Lakewood's television program, directed production, and helped turn KTVU TV 55 into a major independent television station in the Houston market. His father's weekly broadcasts reached viewers in nearly 50 countries. Joel even traveled internationally with John, including trips to India. But no matter how many times he was invited to preach, he kept saying no. His mother Dodie preached. His sister Lisa preached. Joel did not. While all that was happening, another important part of his life quietly fell into place. Around 1985, he met Victoria Isoff after walking into ISOF Jewelers, her mother's jewelry store, to buy a watch battery. What started in such a small, ordinary way would become central to his public life later on. Joel and Victoria married on April 4, 1987. And in time, they had 2 children. Jonathan Osteen, born April 20, 1995, and Alexandra Osteen, born around November 1998. At the same time, the Osteen family was already building the kind of personal testimony that would become central to Lakewood's image. In December 1981, when Dodie was 48 years old, she was diagnosed with metastatic cancer of the liver after 20 days of hospital testing. It was her son Paul, then a medical student, who first noticed her jaundice. Dodie chose not to undergo chemotherapy. Instead, John prayed over her and said, "Jesus, I need her. Her mother and daddy need her. The children need her. The church needs her. And you need her, Jesus." Dodie later said she was divinely healed and published Healed of Cancer in 1986. Years later, Dr. Paul Osteen told the Washington Times, "I was there and I saw the results of the scans and I saw the results of the biopsy. I know it wasn't a misdiagnosis. People just don't survive that. She had multiple lesions. It's just a remarkable miracle." Dodie lived until July 30, 2025, dying peacefully at age 91. That story of healing became part of the family's identity. But even then, no one looking at Joel would have guessed what was coming. He spent years avoiding the pulpit, and that pattern seemed fixed. Then everything changed in January 1999. John Osteen had been dealing with heart and kidney problems, and once again, he asked Joel to preach. Once again, Joel said no. But only minutes later, he called back and changed his mind. On January 17, 1999, at 35 years old, nervous and wearing a pair of his father's shoes for emotional support, Joel Osteen preached his first sermon to a crowd of around 6,000 people. John listened over the phone from his hospital bed. Later, nurses told Joel, "We have never seen your dad so proud." He just beamed with joy. Then came the moment that changed his life forever. Just 6 days later, on January 23, 1999, John Hilary Osteen died of a heart attack at age 77. The timing hit Joel hard because the event felt almost impossible to explain. He later said, "What are the coincidences of me speaking the last Sunday of his life, because he was healthy for the most part." And even after that, the call to take over did not feel natural to him. He remembered the inner struggle clearly, saying, "I felt that same feeling that said, I'm supposed to step up and pastor the church." And again, every thought said, "Are you crazy?" Even so, he stepped forward. On October 3, 1999, Joel was formally installed as the new senior pastor of Lakewood Church, and Victoria was named co-pastor. At first, he tried to preach the way his father had preached, with the same fire and force, but it did not work. A few months in, something clicked. Inspired by a scripture about David fulfilling his purpose for his generation, Joel felt a very clear direction in his heart. As he later put it, "I felt like I heard something. Joel, your dad fulfilled his purpose. Go be you." That was the shift. From then on, he stopped trying to sound like John Osteen and found his own voice, one built on positivity, motivation, and a relentless focus on hope. And once that happened, Lakewood entered a new era. Under Joel, the church grew at a pace that was impossible to ignore. The 8,000-seat sanctuary could no longer hold the crowds. So, In December 2001, Houston City Council approved a 30-year lease between the city and Lakewood Church for the former Compaq Center, the 16,800-seat arena where the Houston Rockets had played from 1975 to 2003 before moving to Toyota Center in October 2003. The scale of the deal was enormous. Lakewood agreed to pay $1.88 million in prepaid rent for 30 years while also pouring about $95 million into renovations, financed largely through a $100 million loan from Bank of America. On top of that, the church received $15 million from selling its former building to New Light Christian Center Church. Then on July 16, 2005, Lakewood officially opened the former Compaq Center as its new home. The grand opening drew around 56,000 people and Texas Governor Rick Perry was among the notable guests. The building itself added to the image, sitting on about 7 acres along the Southwest Freeway. The property spans 66,000 square feet and holds 16,800 seats. Lakewood now runs 4 English-language services and 2 Spanish-language services every week. Conservative estimates put weekly attendance between 43,000 and 52,000 people, making it the largest church in the United States. The church employs 368 staff members and operates on an annual budget of around $89 to $90 million. Then in another major step, Houston City Council voted 13-2 on March 31, 2010 to sell the property outright to Lakewood for just $7.5 million. Years later, in December 2023, the church finally paid off the $100 million Bank of America construction loan, and Joel tearfully announced that milestone from the stage. By that point, Lakewood had become far more than a church in one city. Its television ministry alone was costing about $25 million a year based on fiscal year 2017 financial data. Joel's broadcasts aired on Trinity Broadcasting Network, Daystar, USA Network, and in more than 200 U.S. markets. They reached an estimated 100 million households in America and audiences in more than 100 countries. His online reach became huge too, with around 30 million Facebook followers, 10 million on X, 7 million on Instagram, and 3.6 million YouTube subscribers. As his visibility rose, another transformation happened alongside it. Joel Osteen was no longer just a pastor. He became a publishing success story. His first book, Your Best Life Now, 7 Steps to Living at Your Full Potential, was published on October 12, 2004 by Faith Words. It debuted at number 1 on the New York Times self-help bestseller list, stayed there for more than 2 years, and sold over 8 million copies worldwide. That book changed everything because it turned Joel from a Houston megachurch pastor into a national brand. His next major book, Become a Better You, came out in October 2007 through Simon & Schuster's Free Press imprint. And the financial scale was just as striking as the sales. Reports place the advance north of $8.5 million, while some estimates push the total advances in royalties from that deal to $13 million. The book had a first printing of 4 million copies and also reached number 1 on the New York Times list. Over time, Joel published 7 number 1 New York Times bestsellers: Your Best Life Now in 2004, Become a Better You in 2007, It's Your Time in 2009, Every Day a Friday in 2011, I Declare in 2012, The Power of I Am in 2015, and Think Better Live Better in 2016. Altogether, he has published more than 25 books, including recent titles like Pray Bold in January 2025 and Chosen in July 2025. As that side of his career expanded, Joel made a decision that became one of the most talked about details of his public image. In 2005, he announced that he would stop taking his $200,000 yearly salary from Lakewood Church. From then on, he would support his lifestyle through book royalties, speaking fees reportedly around $50,000 per outside appearance, and other media ventures. In 2013, he told the Christian Post, "My dream was always to be able to work here and serve in the ministry and to not have to take a salary. When I wrote my first book, I didn't know if it would sell 1,000 copies or 20,000 copies, but it sold millions and millions of copies." That decision only fueled more attention on his wealth. His personal fortune is often estimated at around $100 million, though Snopes has noted that publicly circulated net worth numbers do not cite verifiable primary sources. Still, some parts of his wealth are easier to confirm than others, especially when it comes to real estate. In 2010, Joel and Victoria bought a 17,000-square-foot mansion at 3960 Del Monte Drive in Houston's River Oaks neighborhood for $10.5 million. The estate dates back to 1937 and sits on 1.86 acres. It includes 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, 3 elevators, 5 fireplaces, a guest house, and a pool. Current estimates place its value between $14 million and $16 million. The property is technically owned by the Covenant Trust, which means the Osteen do not qualify for a homestead exemption, and annual property taxes are about $260,000. They also still own their former Tanglewood home valued at roughly $2.9 million. At the same time, criticism around financial transparency never fully went away. Ministry Watch gave Lakewood Church an F for financial transparency and a donor confidence score of 3 out of 100, one of the lowest possible ratings. Because Lakewood is a church, it is tax-exempt and not required to file public financial disclosures. Reports from the Houston Chronicle and Financial Times said that less than 1.5% of Lakewood's funds went to charitable causes, which amounted to about $1.2 million out of $89 million in fiscal year 2017 income. And while Joel often projects calm, smiling certainty in public, his family has not avoided controversy. One of the biggest stories involving the Osteen family came not from a stage or a church, but from an airplane. On December 19, 2005, Victoria Osteen boarded Continental Airlines Flight 6002 from Houston to Vail, Colorado. What happened next fed tabloids for years. According to the FAA report, Victoria noticed a liquid stain on the armrest of her first-class seat and demanded that it be cleaned right away. Flight attendants told her they would handle it, but the situation quickly became tense. Flight attendant Sharon Brown later testified that Victoria was shaking her sunglasses in my face and that when Brown stood near the cockpit door, Victoria pushed her against a bathroom door and elbowed her in the left breast. Another flight attendant, Maria Johnson, backed up that account. She testified she took Sharon by the shoulders and pushed her out of the way. Sharon stumbled. Johnson also said Victoria kept repeating, "This is ridiculous. I'm a first-class passenger." The incident delayed the flight by about 2.5 hours. The FAA fined Victoria $3,000 for interfering with a crew member. Joel later said he persuaded his wife to pay the fine so they could put the matter behind them. But that was not the end of it. Brown then filed a civil lawsuit demanding an apology and